announced on state television that he's quitting. Let's have a listen to what he had to say.
I decided to render my resignation. I decided to render my resignation as the Prime Minister, not to avoid the responsibility. I have shouldered the responsibility since January 14th till today. Since I have rendered my resignations and I'm no longer the Prime Minister, as citizens, I have a personal view. There is a revolution, and the revolution mandates that there must be a new constitution on the basis of which the country should move forward. And this is one of the most important matters which I consider as a citizen, that the constitution is important and necessary for us in order to elect a new parliament for Tunis.
The UN Security Council has voted unanimously for sanctions against Libya's leader Muammar Gaddafi and his inner circle. Sanctions include travel bans, an assets freeze and an arms embargo. In Libya, latest reports say anti-government forces are getting ready for a counter-offensive by troops loyal to Muammar Gaddafi in the city of AlJazeera. It's just 50 kilometers west of the capital, Tripoli, and according to witnesses, it's now surrounded by pro-Gaddafi forces. Interesting to take a look now at some of the main players in Colonel Gaddafi's inner circle. We've heard a lot from the leader and from his son, Saif al-Islam. But it's no coincidence that the two closest men to Gaddafi are also the leader's flesh and blood. His third son, Saadi, is commander of Libya's special forces, a man who used to play professional football at one stage in Italy. And he's been in charge of repressing demonstrations. Son number 4, Mutassim Gaddafi, is known as a bit of a playboy who, in his position as National Security Advisor, has influence over the Libyan military. But others from the inner circle may not, it's being speculated, be quite so loyal. Abu Bakr Yunus Jabba. Now, he is the defence minister, but he's not been seen or heard of since the uprising began. That's led to rumours that he's resigned or possibly is under house arrest. Also among possible defectors, Colonel Abdullah al-Sanusi. Now, he's related to Gaddafi. He is his brother-in-law, and he's also director of military intelligence. But the man who could deal a very, very severe blow indeed is a man with the name of Musa Kusa. Musa Kusa, the Foreign Affairs Minister and a former head of external intelligence. Mr. Kusa, conspicuous by his absence from the list of senior Libyans who are under a travel ban. That's the one that's just been imposed. Now, Tariq Youssef is Dean and Senior Research Fellow from Dubai School of Government, a Libyan who is from Benghazi. Tariq, taking a look at all of those different people there, which one would you say is most likely to go next?
Possibly Musa Kusa. Musa Kusa is a deal maker. He's a negotiator. He's been an interlocutor between the Libyan regime and the outside world. He could help negotiate an exit to this stance for Gaddafi. He could also defect if he feels that there is enough outside pressure and a decision has been taken in light of the shifting facts on the ground for Gaddafi to go. Musa Kusa, I think, is the person everyone is looking for, asking about, and the fact that he's not under the travel ban that has just been imposed suggests that the outside world is also looking to hear from him and perhaps is actively negotiating with him as we speak.
And could he sort of negotiate from the Colonel's point of view as well, Colonel Gaddafi's point of view as well, or would he simply be negotiating a new future for Libya?
He could be doing both, but it seems to me initially he will be focusing much more on Gaddafi's own future. He did so in 2003 when he negotiated the normalization pact between Gaddafi and the United States, the UK and other Western powers, and he did it by not only negotiating but also selling it to Gaddafi, who was initially resistant.
Are the sons all going to end up like Saddam Hussein's sons?
My fear is that that scenario is not entirely unlikely, especially in the case of Mu'tasam and Saadi, who both have blood on their hands and perhaps are hunkering down in Tripoli, if not marching with troops on the cities that have fallen outside the control of the regime.
And what about Saif? Because at one stage he was the acceptable face of the regime, but now with his pronouncements on the type of people who are demonstrating and his loyalty avowed to his father, he wouldn't seem to be so much in favour with those outside the country and the protesters.
Saif has become indistinguishable from his dad at the moment, and I think he lost immense credibility both internally and externally. He would be the first to perhaps seek refuge abroad should we come to that point in time, and he's the most likely to find asylum in any of the neighboring countries on account of the fact that at least he does not have blood on his hands and he has not had any role in the intelligence or military.
Do you think Muammar Gaddafi always knew it would come to this, or did he think he could just go on forever?
I think Muammar Gaddafi thought he would go on forever. He told the Libyan people a few days ago that he is history, he is pride, he is dignity. He stands for everything that most people in the Arab world are currently fighting for freedom for. And I think he thought this was not going to be the year in which he possibly would be deposed.
Tariq, thank you very much indeed. And of course, there are those who would say that in more ways than one, Colonel Gaddafi is history. Let's bring in Firas Kayal, the UN officer at the Tunisian border with Libya, been monitoring the situation there with the refugees fleeing the country. Very good to have you on this news hour. Difficult job, but are you managing to cope?
Well, so far, yes. The Tunisian government have informed us that there are some more than 40,000 people who have crossed the border since the 20th of February. As you can see behind me, there is a steady move of people, so the number is on the rise. UNHCR here is working hand in hand with the Red Crescent of Tunisia, with the local communities, as well as the Tunisian authorities, in order to support their efforts in responding to this humanitarian emergency. We have had a plane full of non-food items that we have flown in yesterday. We have right now food items that are enough for 10,000 persons, blankets, mattresses, jerry cans, kitchen sets, etc. And we are right now working with the UAE Red Crescent to identify how and where we can place these items in order to receive the people while they're onward going back to their countries.
Are you hearing some pretty unpleasant tales from them about the way that they were treated when they were still in Libya?
Yes, most of the people are saying that they have had difficult times before arriving here. But also, once they arrive here, they are in need of assistance. And that's why, actually, it is very much appreciated what the local community is doing here and what the Tunisian Red Crescent and the other NGOs. And just to let you know also that the High Commissioner of the United Nations High Commission for Refugees have made an appeal to the international community to assist Tunisia and Egypt, these two countries that have just emerged from revolution, needs to be assisted in order to respond to this humanitarian agency. In the last couple of days, UNHCR have been assisting the two governments to respond to a close to 100,000 persons, the needs of 100,000 persons on both sides of the border, the Egyptian and the Tunisian sides. And as we said, we have a full-fledged team here right now, and we are trying to provide as much help as needed.
We wish you and those people that you're looking after the very best of luck. Thank you very much indeed. Now some other world news. Heavily armed police have broken up a pro-democracy protest in Hong Kong. The activists were responding to an online campaign urging protests against Beijing in major Chinese cities. They've tried to plant jasmine outside the Chinese liaison officer on Sunday, the flower being symbolic of the uprisings across the Middle East. But police put down that demonstration, dragging away several people. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, 6 people have been killed in what appears to be an attempted attack on the presidential palace. Central African Nation's information minister says a group of heavily armed men tried to storm the palace in the capital, Kinshasa, on Sunday, but were stopped at a roadblock. Authorities are calling it a failed coup. Twin explosions in Afghanistan have killed at least 14 people. It was at a dogfighting ground in the Argamandab district of Kandahar province. A police commander is believed to have been the target there. Iraq's Prime Minister is warning his cabinet to shape up or possibly ship out. Nouri al-Maliki's given certain ministries 100 days to get better. This is after weeks of protests across the country by people who are fed up with poor government services. Well, the head of Iraq's parliament is now calling for new local elections.
I call on the government, the parliament and the Independent Election Commission to conduct elections in the provinces, districts and local councils at the earliest possible date. We will work on revisions to the electoral laws soon. Those for the districts and provinces are ready to be adopted, but those concerning the provinces will need to be revised. We should conduct new elections so that the people can have their say.
An Iranian human rights group says 2 opposition leaders have been moved to a so-called safe house in the capital, Tehran. Mehdi Karoubi, the former head of Iran's parliament, and 2009 presidential candidate Mir Hossein Mousavi have been under unofficial house arrest since early February. The government blames the 2 men and their supporters for protests 2 weeks ago. Iran's former president Mohammad Khatami has called for the release of the 2 politicians. Counting's still going on, but it does look in Ireland as though it's been a bad day, a terrible day, in fact, Lauren Taylor, for the ruling Fianna Fáil party.
Yes, that's right, David. Voters punished Fianna Fáil for 13% unemployment, tax rises and a humiliating bailout from the European Union and International Monetary Fund. So let's take a look at how the results stand, with 140 out of 166 seats in the Dáil declared so far. Fianna Fáil, the party which has always been the largest in the Dáil, has won just 16 seats, down a staggering 62 from the last parliament. The Fine Gael party has secured 64 seats. That's a gain of 13 from the last election. Ireland's Labour Party has won 33 seats, up 13. 83 seats are needed for a majority in the Dáil, the lower house of parliament. Rory Challens looks now at what it all means for Ireland. A warning, his report contains a lot of flash photography.
There's a new man on top of Irish politics. Enda Kenny has benefited from an angry electorate eager to turn the established order on its head. He's declared his Fine Gael party the winners in Friday's election and is certain to be elected Prime Minister when the Parliament meets next on March the 9th.
We have no time to lose, no hours to waste. We have a big job ahead of us. I ask for your indulgence and your support.
On the streets of Dublin, there was a sense of relief that new leaders are being given a chance to get Ireland back on track.
At the end of the day, there's going to be cuts. It's going to be hardship. Just do it and get it done with.
They're going to have to follow through on the promises that they're